It started with a single, wet footprint in the hallway. Just one deep red, glistening under the dim overhead light, shaped like a bare human foot, yet too long. With distorted toes that curled slightly inward, the air stank of copper and rot. I crouched to inspect it, and the floorboards beneath felt strangely cold, slick as if something had just slithered past. It's a whisper too soft to be words scoed down the corridor behind me, like breath brushing against my ear. I spun, but no one was there. No sound followed. Silence so thick it throbbed inside my skull. The trail led toward my bedroom. I live alone. At first, I blamed myself. Maybe I'd stepped on a nail in my sleep. Maybe I was sleepwalking. But when I followed the trail, each step grew colder beneath my feet, and the floor began to creak not under my weight, but ahead of me, as if something walked just beyond my line of sight. On the door was an old carving I'd never noticed before, a sigil etched in splintered wood. My hand trembled as I touched it. Visions flooded my mind. A girl, face stitched shut, buried alive beneath the floor, chanting in a dead language, villagers lighting torches, and the phrase, "It never dies, it only forgets." I blinked. The vision vanished, but bile filled my mouth. The taste was sharp, metallic. I staggered back, heart pounding. Suddenly, silence. The air felt lighter. No smell, no blood. The print vanished. Leaf washed over me. Then a breath, warm, right behind me. I turned to see the mirror on the wall. It wasn't reflecting me anymore. It was reflecting a room I didn't recognize, darker, wetter. And something inside was moving. Asterisk, the reflection refused to mimic me. I waved nothing. My mirror self just stood there, head tilted slightly, as if listening to something just out of reach. Then it blinked. I hadn't. That's when I noticed the wallpaper behind it. My room doesn't have wallpaper. The one in the reflection peeled in long, damp strips, revealing a blackened surface underneath that post, slowly, like rotting flesh. A low, creaking groaned through the walls, followed by a whisper that sounded like my name was spoken with too many mouths. I backed away, gagging as the air thickened like breathing through spoiled meat. That same copper temps filled my nose, sharp and wet, and the metallic taste of blood and old bile coated my tongue. I staggered, nearly vomiting, and caught myself on the dresser. Surface was icy, wet, too cold for wood. I yanked my hand back and stared. Frostbite blue lines bloomed up my wrists like veins drawn in ink. I turned on the light. The mirror went dark. My room looked normal again. Floor clean, dresser dry. Breathing easier, I almost laughed. Then I saw the journal on my bed. It hadn't been there before. Fingers trembling, I opened it. The pages were brittle and soaked at the corners, like they'd been buried in ice. Each one was filled with symbols, spidery, impossible to read, but toward the middle, there was a sketch. A girl with hollow eyes and threads for lips. Her body twisted backward, knees bending the wrong way. Neath it, the name, Antra. I remembered that name. A local legend whispered by my grandmother during storms. "Don't break the ground on winter's day," she'd say, or Antra will come breathing. The next page was blank, except for fresh drops of blood forming slowly on the paper, and the sound of breathing now inside the room. Asterisk, I slammed the journal shut, but the blood kept leaking from it, warm and sticky, soaking into the sheets. I threw it across the room. It hit the mirror, and the glass spiderwebbed with a deafening crack. Shards fell. Instead, the fracture pulsed red, as if something behind it was bleeding. The breathing hadn't stopped. It was louder now, wet, labored. It came from under the bed. I dropped to my knees, heart hammering. Slowly, I lifted the sheet. Nothing, just Dust, a forgotten slipper. Silence. Then a whisper tickled my ear, not from under the bed, but inside my head. She remembers. I scrambled back. My throat burned like I'd swallowed acid. The air was thick again. The room stank of copper and rot. I clutched the nightstand for balance. Its wood had gone soft and spongy, like flesh left too long in water. The floor felt warped beneath my feet, bending subtly with every step, like something beneath it was shifting. In the hallway, the lights flickered. I stumbled out, gagging, and leaned against the wall. It was slick. My hand came away red. Blood. The wallpaper peeled itself back, exposing long veins underneath, pulsing faintly. A moment of silence. I thought it was over. The air lightened. My vision cleared. Then the lights cut out completely. I ran to the attic. I don't know why. Maybe to get higher. Away there, I found the box my grandmother had warned me never to open. Its lid was sealed with twine and a wax symbol, her old talisman. A failed protection spell. Locals used it centuries ago to ward off Antra, the one buried beneath the ice, who whispered through cracked mirrors. I broke the seal. Inside was a doll, hand-carved eyes, hollow, and it was still breathing. Asterisk, the doll exhaled. A soft, rasping breath that smelled like bile and rusted iron. I staggered back, bile rising in my throat. Its wooden body was damp, as if it had been buried in ice and unearthed too soon. My fingers trembled as I reached out to the surface. It was cold, wet, almost breathing beneath the grain. I dropped it, but it didn't fall. It hovered, inches above the attic floor, as if held aloft by something unseen. Then the whispers began again, Liard voices, some shrill, some guttural, speaking in a tongue I shouldn't have understood, but I did. They chanted her name, Antra. My grandmother's diary was buried beneath the box. I tore it open, and her entries were frantic, written in smudged ink and stained with something dark. She'd known. She'd tried to seal the doll, using the last of the elder rites rituals from the mountain village she fled as a girl. The elders had called it the breath beneath the ice. They sacrificed warmth and memory to keep it frozen. When the blood trails returned, they knew the seal was failing. So they buried the doll and swore to forget. The room shifted around me. The ceiling warped downward. Nails creaked as if the beams were breathing, exhaling cold drafts that carried the scent of decay and salt. The shadows in the attic deepened, stretching across the walls like veins. For a moment, everything went still. I heard birds outside. Sunlight touched the edges of the curtains. I almost laughed. Then the doll screamed. Not loudly, but inside my skull. My nose bled. The attic door slammed shut. The mirror across the room cracked down the center, revealing not my reflection, but something else behind the glass. It was watching, and it had my face. Asterisk. I ran down the attic stairs, heart hammering like fists against bone. Every step felt slower, like the air had thickened. The whispering followed closer now, urgent, acidic. It slithered into my ears, coiling behind my eyes. The hallway walls pulsed. Veins bulged from the wallpaper, oozing something dark and thick. I brushed against them and recoiled at the texture, soft, warm, wet, like touching open skin. The smell hit harder downstairs, rot and copper, like old blood baked into wood. I gagged, my tongue tasted metal. Bile crept up the back of my throat, bitter and burning. I collapsed in the kitchen, gasping, only to see my hands, not my hands. Fingers too long, nails blackened, skin blotched with mold. I blinked, normal, clean, my hands again. Was I hallucinating? On the kitchen table, a photo album lay open, one I'd never seen. Black and white images of villagers surrounding a frozen lake. In one photo, they held the doll, but its face was different. It looked like mine, scribbled in Urdu. On the back, translated roughly, "Never unseal breath. The face you wear, it will claim." The lights flickered. For a moment, I thought the worst had passed. The shadows retreated. The warmth returned. A breeze from the cracked window brought the scent of grass and rain. I sobbed with relief. Then the floor buckled beneath me. My knees crashed into something soft and sticky, licked down a trail of blood. Thick, bright, and fresh. It led toward the bathroom. My bathroom. I live alone from inside. The sound of breathing. Wet, ragged. Not mine. I took one step forward. The door creaked open on its own. Inside, the mirror pulsed as something moved just behind the glass, mouthing words I hadn't said yet. I stared into the mirror, breath shallow, heart stuttered. My reflection twitched. Not in it. Its smile was too wide, splitting at the corners like torn flesh. Its eyes were wrong, black pits swirling like something ancient was looking out. I stepped back. The tile floor was ice beneath my feet, slippery, wet, my socks soaked in something thick. I looked down. Blood. It seeped from the grout lines. The bathroom walls pulsed. Tiny cracks split open like veins, and something breathed behind them, low and labored, like lungs dragging through mud. I gagged. The taste of iron and bile filled my mouth. I could smell it. No decay, copper, rotting teeth. I screamed and stumbled back, slamming the door shut. Silence. No movement. Just my breath, ragged and rapid. For a moment, it felt like the house had exhaled. I dared to believe it was over. Then the whispers returned. Hollow, familiar, my voice, but older, repeating a lullaby my grandmother used to hum. Pakistani folk song meant to keep spirits from crawling into dreams. The elders used to say, "Never sing it at night. It draws the buried." I remembered laughing at that once. Not now. I backed into the hallway. The light overhead flickered, then died. In the dim glow from my phone, I saw it. Claw marks gouged deep into the floorboards, fresh, like something had crawled. Recently, I clutched the photo album tighter. A page I hadn't seen was now open. It showed a child, faceless, standing beneath the ice. A note beside it read, "Returned once, buried thrice. It waits for its breath to be stolen." My hands shook. The doll was no longer in the attic. It was cradled gently on my bed, and something was. Under the blanket, breathing. Asterisk. The blanket rose and fell slow, steady, like lungs. I crept closer, heart hammering so hard it hurt. My throat burned with the metallic sting of bile. Each step squelched. The floor was damp again. The copper smell grew thick, clinging to my skin, curling in my nostrils like smoke. I reached for the edge of the blanket. My fingertips grazed the fabric, cold, sticky. Then it stopped breathing. Silence. Nothing moved. No whisper. No creak. Even the air held still, suspended in dread. For a moment, I believed it was over. That maybe the fear had conjured everything. I backed away, eyes locked on the unmoving lump beneath the covers. Leaf trembled through me thin, fragile. Then the blanket collapsed, empty, left behind me. The mirror cracked. I spun, and the closet door groaned open. Inside, I found something wrapped in burlap. I tore it open with shaking hands. A decaying child's dress, soaked through with old blood. A rusted charm tied around the collar, a ward of protection. I recognized the design. My grandmother used to stitch them into our clothing. "So they forget your name," she said, "so it doesn't follow you." Too late. The air turned electric. The walls wept crimson. Paint peeled in strips. revealing something beneath the bone, not drywall. My name carved over and over in something darker than ink. I dropped the dress. Something screamed from beneath the bed. Not a child, not human. I tried to pray. The words wouldn't come. My thoughts blurred. My vision swam, and then the lights surged bright. Blinding dot. The entity stood in the corner now, half-formed, a child shape, limbs too long. No face, just folds of shadow, twisting where eyes should be. It tilted its head and whispered my full name, a name I'd never told anyone in this house. Asterisk. I ran down the hall, past the portraits now, warped eyes, leaking black. My feet slipped on something warm. Blood, not mine. The coppery stench was choking now, like pennies in my throat. Whispers followed me, slithering along the walls. They didn't sound angry. They sounded amused. I locked myself in the bathroom. Silence. The mirror pulsed, cracked, spidered outward, and behind them, I saw a different reflection of me, but older, hollowed out, eyes like broken glass, and in his hand, that same child's charm, except in division, it was scorched black. I dropped to my knees, dry heaving. A chunk of bile and blood hit the tiles. My teeth buzzed like they wanted to jump from my skull. Then I saw it behind the toilet, something tucked in plastic, a notebook half burned, pages melted together by age and water. Inside, frantic writing, drawings, rituals, the breather, it read. Bound under floorboards, fed silence, grows through memory. My name was listed on the final page. The entity wasn't just following me, it had always been here, my grandmother's. Rituals weren't meant to keep something out, they were meant to keep something in. Suddenly, the whispers stopped, no movement. False hope slithered in, fragile and dangerous. I opened the door. The hallway was clean, the blood gone, portraits, normal. I staggered forward, trembling. Kink, maybe it had passed. Then the floor buckled. From beneath the boards came fingers. Gray, long, sharp-nailed. They scraped along the wood, tearing at the grain, pulling it apart like flesh. Scream died in my throat as the scent of rot and old wood overwhelmed me. Then a voice whispered, right behind my ear, not alone anymore. And just like that, the walls sighed, bleeding from every crack. Something had finally come up. I crawled backward, slipping in warm, slick blood as the floorboards split wide like a mouth opening in hunger. The room breathed literally, breath exhaling, rot thick as fog. The walls wept crimson, and the ceiling groaned like old bones shifting in a crypt. From beneath the floor, a sound like wet cloth dragging across glass echoed upward. I could taste iron and bile on my tongue. My vision pulsed in and out. The air felt wrong to steal between the creaks, as if time itself was holding its breath. I clutched the burnt notebook to my chest. Loose page fluttered free, landing in the core. On it, a sketch of the entity long, faceless, with ribs like prison bars and no eyes. The caption beneath it read, born of silence, fed by fear. It remembers names. My name was circled in red. I crawled into the hallway, dragging my body, legs numb. For a moment, everything stopped. The bleeding walls dried, T-floor sealed. Light returned to the fixtures above, flickering with artificial warmth. I wept. Maybe it was over. Maybe I had imagined all of it, spiraling from isolation and grief. I laughed, short, sharp, hysterical. Then the TV turned on by itself. Static. Then words carved into the screen with a screeching hiss. Welcome home. My knees buckled. In a sudden vision, I saw villagers gathered around a frozen lake centuries ago, chanting, hammering nails into the ice. They called it breath of the earth. A curse sealed by blood and winter. Every generation, it chose someone to feed and a host with the right memory scars. My grandmother had failed to stop it. I was next. A whisper brushed my ear again, but this time it spoke in my voice. I was always here, and the mirror cracked, revealing something still breathing. On the inside, asterisks. I ran but the hallway stretched endlessly, the doors multiplying like tumors on the walls. Each handle I grabbed was ice cold, slick with something that clung to my skin like syrup. My breath turned to fog, then to whispers, forming words I couldn't unhear. Stay. You were chosen. The floor pulsed beneath my feet, soft as flesh, and from the cracked wallpaper oozed a stench like rotten copper and wet grave soil. My mouth tasted of blood and bile, sharp and metallic. In the final room, the air was suffocatingly still. An altar made of shattered furniture and bones stood in the center. A rusted mirror hung above it, its glass rippling like disturbed water. I approached, trembling, and in the reflection saw not myself, but the entity, faceless arms too, long body stitched with forgotten screams. Behind it stood my grandmother, mouth sewn shut, eyes pleading. I dropped to my knees. My fingers found a stone beneath the altar, etched with symbols I recognized from childhood stories, ones my village elders warned never to speak aloud. The breath watches, the tea, the breath waits. They performed rituals each winter, burning offerings, whispering prayers in dying tongues. But last winter, no one remembered. That's when it awakened. For a fleeting moment, the whisper stopped. The air warmed. A light, fought foolishly, had passed, crawled back toward the front door, heart pounding. Then the doorknob melted. The wall screamed. The entity emerged from the mirror, slow and deliberate, dragging the dark behind it like a burial shroud. A body froze. My mind fractured. I screamed, but it came out as laughter, and just before the light vanished for good, I saw a blink dash once stopped. Now, they say my apartment stands empty, but every winter, fresh blood trails still lead back to my room.